Today, I'm here to tell you why we all need to be more delusional. If you think about the people in your life that are the most delusional, you can't tell me that they don't always get the things that they want out of life. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and many of the people in my life will tell you that I am delusional in a lot of ways, which is kind of true in some ways, but in other ways, I feel like I have so much self doubt that I've had to work on overcoming my whole life. And unfortunately, I have seen myself ruin opportunities for myself because I didn't believe in myself. If I would have had that extra ounce of confidence, or if I was just a little bit more delusional, I probably could have gotten the thing that I wanted. And even where I am now, I feel like I've done a lot of things for myself, especially in the last year. I feel like my life has been really falling into place. I got into my dream grad school. I became a Pilates instructor. I moved across the country to a new state where I didn't know anyone. I ran a half marathon. I've done a lot of things for myself. And why is it that I still have that little inkling of self doubt? I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. We all have a certain level of self doubt. And it can be very crippling. And sometimes we might be more than capable of something. And sometimes we just don't even believe in ourselves enough to take the first step. Maybe it's something we really want to do, but we're too scared because we don't truly believe in ourselves. That's why I really wanted to talk about why we should be more delusional. See, it's really just about confidence and believing in yourself. If you're just the right amount of delusional, that kind of bridges the gap sometimes between doing something that you've never done before. So maybe you don't have the experience to truly feel confident in it, but you have that delusion. So you believe in your ability to figure it out and to learn how to succeed. So that's really the kind of delusional I want to talk about today, the good kind of delusional. And we're going to touch on some of the not so good aspects of being delusional and how it can get kind of toxic. We'll dive into that as well. Hopefully, after today's episode, you can leave feeling just a little bit more delusional and a lot more confident in what you're capable of. With that being said, welcome back to 20s Confidential, the go-to podcast for 20-somethings navigating self-love, growth, and just enough chaos. I saw this quote that kind of inspired me to make this video today, and it was, "The most successful people that I know believe in themselves almost to the point of delusion." And this is so true if you think about it. People that are delusionally confident always get what they want. And if they don't get what they want, they are confident that they're going to get the next thing. And see, if you go about life like this, if one thing doesn't work out, you can pick yourself up faster because you believe in yourself. So you're going to go chase that next thing and you're going to show up putting your best foot forward. So even if something doesn't work out, if you have that delusional confidence, then you're going to be able to persevere so much more easily than somebody who is filled with self-doubt and gets down on themselves whenever one thing doesn't work out. Like I said, I can't even count how many times I've self-sabotaged myself by not believing in myself enough. I remember when I was a freshman in college and I was a cheerleader at my school. Growing up, I never thought that I would be a collegiate cheerleader. That was awesome. I worked really hard senior year, ended up making the team, and as soon as I got there, instead of using the fact that I made the team as momentum to keep going, I compared myself to everyone else on the team who had what I perceived as more experience, and I let that get so in my head that I actually performed worse. And so I ended up losing my spot on the team because I didn't believe in myself. And that is something I always think about when I think about imposter syndrome and self doubt. And I'm genuinely so glad that that happened to me because it taught me so much about the way that you allow yourself to think and the things that you tell yourself really and truly affects everything you do and the outcomes that you have. And maybe it's more of an unconscious belief that, like, I am not capable of doing this or I don't know what I'm doing. But sometimes we just need to have a little bit more audacity and have faith in yourself. Look at all the things that you've done and accomplished. Why are we not using that as proof that we can do more? Why are we picking out the small failures or the little tiny things and using that as like tickets to our downfall? Don't be your own worst enemy. It's self-sabotage and it stops today because we're going to become so delusionally confident and we're going to make ourselves proud. Okay, so the first reason why you should be delusional is sometimes having a little bit of delusion is just believing in yourself before you have any actual proof. And a lot of this has to do with confidence and believing in yourself, believing you are capable, even if you don't have the immediate proof yet. That's when being just a little bit delusional is going to help you take that first step. It's also just having that self trust that you're going to figure it out and you're going to have your own back. So we're calling it being delusional, but it's really just, it's holding yourself in a high regard and having a high opinion of yourself. That's really what it is. That's what it comes down to. When it comes to making changes or trying something new, every major change starts with the willingness to try. And this kind of reminds me of what Mel Robbins said, that confidence is the willingness to try. And I wholeheartedly agree with this. I think confidence is not a personality trait. I think it's an action. And to be a confident person means that you're doing something on a continuous basis that is making you confident. It's not just something that you have that is just there. It's something that you identify with. For instance, I am a runner and I identify with running. It's like that. And to be a runner, you have to go for runs and do it over and over and over again. So changes start with the willingness to try before you're ready. That's really what it is. And sometimes to try before we're ready means we just have to take that leap. And that's where being delusional comes into play. Even if you're just willing to try, you're already a step ahead, because how many people don't even try because they're afraid to fail? How many times have you wanted to do something and you've talked about it, you've thought about it, you've wrote it down, and you still don't do it and you never take that action? So by refraining from trying, just so you won't fail, you're already failing by default. So just think about that. If you're so afraid of failing that you don't even try, you're failing by default. Another key part of being delusional is just truly believing that you deserve whatever it is that you want, no matter what it is, and not in a way that's entitled, but in a way that you believe that you're deserving of good things. It's wanting the best for yourself and believing that you deserve that. And that to me is self-love. We're learning how to be delusional in a way that portrays self-love and the love that we have for ourselves. So that's the idea. I'm not saying we should all be like so ignorant, that kind of delusional, but like in a way that it's filled with self-love and wanting the best for ourselves and believing that we can have it and having confidence in what we're capable of. And that's another thing about being delusional, is that if you are delusional enough to believe that you can do something, even if you're just a little bit more delusional, you're going to be more likely to step out of your comfort zone. And that's when we can actually grow and actually get the things that we want, because nothing worth having ever comes easy. It never comes from staying in our comfort zone. So if we could just have that little bit of delusion to actually try, we're so much more likely to succeed. I remember when I first started teaching Pilates and I was so scared. I'm an introvert and I was so scared. I had wanted to do it for years, but I just couldn't bring myself to actually follow through with it. And then I finally did. And now I'm like, wait, I'm a Pilates instructor and I'm a good one. People tell me they love my classes. And I just got hired at this badass studio in LA. And now I'm talking on this podcast and I'm an introvert. So it's just like, you just have to believe in yourself enough to try. And then as soon as you try, you're going to have a little bit more competence in whatever that thing is, and it's going to give you more confidence to keep trying and keep taking that next step. And now you're just building your confidence and building your self-belief in your self-concept. And then you can channel into other things in your life, and you're going to try other things because you've proven to yourself that you can show up and that you can do what you say you're going to do. So sometimes it's really just about taking that first step. And it's a really hard thing to do. And it's really scary because you don't have that proof yet. But if you don't take that first step, you're going to be stuck in the same place forever. So yeah, being delusional, you're more likely to try, more likely to succeed. Amen. Now I want to touch on how being delusional kind of sets you free from other people's limiting beliefs. So up until this point, we've talked about how your own limiting beliefs kind of hold you back and that delusion sets you free from that. Now I want to talk about how delusion sets you free from other people's limitations that they set for you. Or maybe they've set limitations for themselves and they're projecting it onto you. If somebody's really negative or doesn't have a whole lot of ambition, they're probably not going to be able to be supportive or see your aspirations at the same level that you do. So it could be really discouraging sometimes because some people might have limiting beliefs about what they can do and they kind of project that onto you. So being delusional kind of lets you disregard other people's opinions that are limiting you in a way. I'm going to use this as an example just because it's the first thing that came to my mind, but I'm from a small town in South Texas and no one really leaves. And so when I was little, I always said like, "Oh, I want to move to California. I want to do this and that and move away and all this stuff." And they just could never really grasp that. I'm glad I never gave up on that dream because it seemed so unrealistic to the people around me at the time, but I just kind of held on to that as a child. And now I'm here and it wasn't unrealistic after all. So sometimes it's just really important to have that delusion and trust yourself and do the things that you're passionate about. Sometimes people don't realize that they're placing their limitations onto you. Sometimes it's completely unintentional. That's why having that delusion to kind of carry you through and not internalize other people's perceptions. So it sets you free from other people's limitations and other people's perceptions that have nothing to do with you. The biggest thing here about being delusional is that it creates momentum. When you decide you are deserving of something, you start identifying with that. You start acting like the person that already has the thing that you want. Because you are energetically aligning with that thing, you are so much more likely to receive it. And that's exactly how we get the things that we want and how we truly manifest, by taking action and identifying with the version of us that already has the things that we want. If you identify as a runner, you're going to go on runs and not even think about it. And then bam, you are a runner because you identified with the behaviors of a runner. And if you're someone that struggles with self-doubt like me, being delusional is really helpful with canceling out your imposter syndrome. And oh my God, that is probably my biggest flaw, the level of imposter syndrome that I have had in my life. And I've gotten over a lot of it, but there's still a little bit every now and then. And I am like, oh my God, how many times do I need to prove to myself that I can do this thing where I stop doubting myself? And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this. How many times have you talked yourself out of doing something that you wanted to do? Or talked yourself out of an opportunity because you convinced yourself that you weren't ready or that you weren't competent enough? Sometimes it's really, really unfortunate how we let others' opinions kind of dictate the way that we live our lives. People don't really give a shit. Like, honestly, people don't really give a shit what you're doing. And that's a big thing that I've had to realize. No one's really watching you that hard. And if they are, they're probably more of a fan than anything. Do what your soul is telling you to do. You know, follow your intuition. You know what you want to do. You're just scared to do it. I think most of the time, you know what to do. You're just afraid and you don't believe in yourself or you think it's too unrealistic. So be delusional, take the first step. Just think about the first step, one step at a time. For me, it was posting my first episode. Oh my God, good example here. I listened to my first episode like 6 times, guys. I listened to that episode 6 times to make sure that I didn't sound stupid. And after listening to it 6 times, I decided it was actually really good. And then, instead of feeling satisfied by that, I was like, wait, how am I going to live up to the expectation of posting another good episode and then doing that over and over again? Like, how am I going to live up to that? Like, are you kidding me? It's literally right in front of you, the proof that you did it the first time. So why wouldn't you be able to do it again? Why are you doubting yourself so much? Oh my God. It's so easy to slip down that rabbit hole, but why can't we just use the positive things as proof instead of the negative? Why do we have to go the negative route? Because it's a slippery slope, it really is. You let one self-doubt creep in and oh my gosh, you're done, you're cooked. You have to be so careful about what you allow yourself to think about. Be so careful about what you're telling yourself because the things that you tell yourself over and over again, you actually start to believe them. So be careful. I think being delusional kind of ties into the concept of detachment as well. And I kind of want to do an episode on this because I think it's really interesting. But I think being delusional kind of helps you stay unattached to outcomes because you know that things are going to work out for you. And if one thing doesn't go your way, you don't get down about it. You just trust that a better opportunity is going to come. and you truly believe that. So disappointments don't really hold you down, and your bounce back rate is so much quicker, and you're so much more resilient if you have that delusion and if you believe that things are going to work out for you no matter what. And when things do go wrong and maybe you do fail, maybe you messed up really bad, being delusional is going to help you recover from that. You're going to be so much better at mitigating failures and making it right. And instead of internalizing it, saying, I'm a failure, or I can't do this, or I'm not good enough, it's okay, this didn't work. What can I do to fix it? So it's not internalizing it. You trust yourself to figure out how to fix it. And people that are delusional just see failures as a redirection. It's really as simple as that. And it's honestly so true. Rejection is redirection. Everybody says it for a reason. Something better is coming. So instead of beating yourself up about it, let's shake it off, reroute, and figure it out. Okay, so now we're going to talk about where delusion can be a little bit toxic. A lot of this has to do with like the whole delulu trend on social media. And what I mean by delulu trend is people kind of romanticizing impulsive behaviors, chaos, the kind of chaos that's self-destructive, not the good chaos that is in this podcast. And in some cases, entitlement. However, there's a difference between being entitled and just believing that you deserve good things. Entitlement is kind of more with material things. I think a lot of people on social media kind of identify with being delusional, mainly as a way to like avoid self-awareness, which obviously this podcast is all about self-awareness and self-growth. So I don't think if you're listening to this podcast, you are going down that path of like avoiding responsibility or avoiding reality. You obviously like want to grow and learn and work on yourself. Yeah, I think it definitely can be used as like a negative way of avoiding like working on yourself, avoiding accountability, being super entitled about things. Like if it's something that you have to work for and get like your ass behind it, the point of being delusional is to trigger self-belief and trigger confidence to work for something that you want. It's not like believing that you can have something with the snap of your fingers and like don't have to do the work to get it. It should be obvious, but I'm just putting that out there. One way that I have definitely used being delusional as a form of self-sabotage or kind of just like normalizing chaos and being off the rails, I think. Yeah, I'm just like getting flashbacks. Guys, we've come a long ways. Really have. I think social media also really glamorizes this. That's one thing about like being in my 20s is like some people just expect you to be like literally so chaotic and insane. And I'm just like at the point where I don't want to inflict any emotional harm on myself. I don't need any more stress in my life. So I'm really actually good. But yeah, maybe occasionally. One way that I guess an example of this would be just like being in the college scene and drinking a lot, going out a lot, and like self-sabotaging myself, ordering pizza at 3 a.m., and then feeling like crap the next day, and then being so exhausted, I can't get anything done. Like to me, that's chaos. And I was like normalizing that because I was in college, but that was delusional in the sense to where it was a little bit self-sabotaging, but it was also like something that I needed to experience. Yeah. Everybody has their own threshold for things and that's okay. At this point, it takes me 2 days to recover after having 3 margaritas. So I think I'm gonna really try to be smart about things. I don't know where I'm going with this. So, how to find the right balance of delusion and how to find grounded confidence. So, I think it really comes down to recognizing what's in your control and what isn't. So, things that are out of your control, I think it's really important to sit back and let your delusions work for you. If you believe you deserve good things, then don't go grasping on to every single thing that you think you want. This is where the unattachment kind of comes into play. You have to believe that the right things are going to find you, and if you do your part and you show up authentically and you don't get the outcome that you want, then that just wasn't meant for you. And someone that's delusionally confident is willing to accept that and let it go and have open arms and ready to accept the next thing that comes in. When it comes to things that are in your hands, it really just comes down to being willing to take action. Having that little ounce of delusion to give you the courage to take action, even if it's just that first step. Delusion gives us that self-confidence that we need to try new things. It gives us the belief that we actually deserve those things and the discipline that it takes to actually execute. I think a lot of it has to do with discipline, the things that are in your hands. After you take that first step, you still have to be consistent, and that's where the discipline comes in. Also, want to do an episode on that as well. Getting all kinds of ideas in this episode. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you really just become who you think about. If you believe in yourself and who you are and what you're capable of, even if it is a little bit delusional and you don't have that tangible proof yet for all of it, if you believe in yourself, you're going to want to try. And if you try, then that gives you the opportunity to actually prove it to yourself that you can do it. And then you have even more reason to have more confidence and to keep trying new things. And you're going to be more willing to step out of your comfort zone. And that's where all the good stuff happens. So, yeah, be so freaking delusional. Because just think about it. If you're constantly thinking out of fear, or insecurity, or limitation for yourself, you're going to stay exactly where you are. But when you start thinking like the version of you that already has the things that you want, you're going to start aligning with that because you're going to start acting like it. And that's when we actually start getting the things that we want. So delusion is just that spark that gets us started. It really is. So I hope we can leave this episode with kind of a new definition for delusion. It's not pretending. It's the process of becoming. It's that little ounce of extra confidence that we need to put one foot forward. So being delusionally confident is not a bad thing. It's the best thing you can do for yourself because it means that you're brave enough to believe that you're capable. And if you believe in yourself, you're unlocking so many things for yourself. You're going to be willing to try so many things. You're going to be able to recover from things that don't go so well. You're going to be able to bounce back like that and go try something else. And you're going to be able to find the right things a lot faster and a lot more easily because you're willing to try, you're willing to mess up, you're willing to grow. You think highly of yourself. You're growing that confidence with everything you do because you're trying. So be freaking delusional, guys. Be delusional enough to bet on yourself because that's how we become the person we want to be. With that being said, thanks so much for tuning into 20s Confidential. Here's to growing, glowing, and embracing the chaos of our 20s. Bye, guys.